And now a CBS 21 News special assignment. It's been more than a decade since the 2004 flooding from Hurricanes Ivan and Jeanne, and 4 years since the Great Flood of 2011.
Our chief meteorologist Tom Russell has been doing some research, finding out what can be done so these tragedies don't happen again. He's live here in the studio with what he found. Tom.
Well, you know, the truth is all of the Susquehanna Valley is a floodplain, so just about all of us are vulnerable. But hopefully we're better prepared for the next one.
Who can forget the iconic picture of Hershey underwater in 2011?
Number one threat identified, I think, as long as time has been here, has always been flooding for Dauphin County and essentially our region.
I sat down with Steve Libhart, director of the Dauphin County Emergency Management Agency, and talked about why.
We have more miles of waterway than any other state in the nation.
So flooding really is inevitable. It's part of the natural cycle as the earth returns nutrients to the soil. So how do we live with this inevitability?
Our primary concern is the safety of the individuals first, and then the preservation of property. One of the biggest mitigation activities we can undertake is just public education, and just tell people, listen, you have to pay attention to the areas around you. If you see instances where during a heavy rainfall you have a lot of surface water, you can reasonably assume that if we have a true flooding condition, you're going to see that probably tenfold. The residents of Shipoke know full well that due to their proximity to the river, what to anticipate.
The best way to mitigate is to eliminate the problem before it starts.
For a municipality to come in, apply for what we refer to as hazard mitigation grant programs, they essentially buy the property and return the property to like an open space concept, be it a park.
So this is one of those areas along the Swatara Creek where once flooding caused much heartache. But now the floodwaters can come and go with no property damage.
This is Steve Letavik, Londonderry Township Manager.
We purchased homes after Tropical Storm Lee.
He says 14 flooded properties were purchased here. The area cleaned up, and now they're in the beautifying process.
We've planted a number of different trees and shrubs here to reduce stormwater runoff, to provide cover for the wildlife. The species that are here were picked specifically because they were native to Pennsylvania. The idea is to actually reduce not only the amount of stormwater that gets into this watershed, but also to improve the water quality of the water that does enter the watershed.
So it actually makes the water better.
It makes it cleaner, absolutely.
So what about the families who used to call this home?
We were able to relocate them. The program was a voluntary program. They wanted to move, so we were able to purchase their home at fair market value prior to the flood. That created the ability for them to locate out of harm's way.
And that really is the challenge.
We've got to do a better job of getting people out of harm's way and restoring these floodplains to what they are, which is floodplains.
Give me that sense of, we're looking at the Swatara Creek here. How much water was here?
Well, I will tell you that that house as it stands today had water almost up into the second floor. Even after it was elevated during Lee.
Wow.
So when that house sat on the ground, it would have been completely inundated.
You're telling me this was over our heads?
Yes.
So some people choose to stay. They just raise their house up instead.
The effect is the same in that now they're out of harm's way.
So what about the future?
It's not a question of if it happens again, it's when. And I think we're going to see flooding that we have not had historically, and I think there'll be a new standard set. I think we'll exceed 72. We have to design to a higher standard. And we have to take into account the fact that we've developed, and we've overdeveloped in some areas.
And it not only affects those immediately in the flood.
To get them out of harm's way and our first responders out of harm's way, it is going to happen again. And I think we need to continue to do this type of work where we're restoring floodplains and reducing the impact.
He says it's the part of the job he really likes.
But one of the things that's very rewarding is to be able to take a horrible situation like this and help people. Ones that did relocate have actually called me since and said, we don't have to worry every time we hear it's going to rain.
Well, Steve emphasized, of course, that it's a voluntary program, so people really had to think about it. I mean, it's their home. So the other thing that factors in, the further you get away from a flooding event, the less you think it's going to happen again.
Right.
But we all know from living here that it will.
It does. Is there another area that really should be worried about this?
Well, you know, flood-prone areas change as we develop more and more, as he mentioned. Plus, it changes from storm to storm. So last time it was the Swatara Creek and the East Shore locations that really took the brunt of it. So maybe next time it might be the West Shore location. Wow. So the takeaway here is we really need people to be prepared no matter where you are.
Yeah, definitely.
We all do.
Yep.
Thank you, Tom.
We need to keep our